Hi everyone, my name is Shivank and I welcome you all to the Introduction to Python Programming course. In this course, we will be discussing about the concept of the Python programming language. We will be starting this course from the very much scratch, from the very basic concept, from like what is Python, why we are using Python, and then we are also going to discuss about some advanced concept in this particular course. This particular course, that is Introduction to Python Programming Language, will be starting from very much basics, and then we will also be covering some advanced topics. In this particular module, we are going to discuss about the basic concept like what is Python, what are the different applications of Python, how we can do the installation process of Python, how we can install the Python on our machine. Then we will be executing our first program on the Python, like printing the hello world. So we are going to discuss all those concepts in this particular module, that is getting started with Python. So let's start. So this is the course content this is the module content that we have already discussed, like what is Python, why Python. These topics we are going to discuss about inside this particular module. So for scope of Python, what we can do with Python, what are the different area of uses of the Python, then who which companies are using the Python programming language, how we can use the Python, features of Python. Then this is the important part, this important topic, how we can install Python on our machine, and we are going to execute the Python on our machine. Let's start with what is Python. We are going to understand each and every topic from very basic, and then we are going to discuss the advanced concept as well. So let's talk about what is Python. So first definition says that Python is a general purpose, interpreted, interactive, object oriented, and high level programming language. There are the multiple words. The first definition is combined with the multiple words. First one is the interpreted. We don't know what is the meaning of the interpreted. We don't know what is the meaning of the high level. We don't know what is the meaning of the object oriented. So let's discuss all these in very much depth. Let's start with our first concept, that is interpreted. The first definition is saying that Python is a general purpose interpreted language. So let's discuss about the concept of the interpreted. Interpreted means, let's understand this with an example. Consider there is a person, the name of the person is John. On this side, I am having a the name of the person is John, and on the other side there is another lady. The name of the lady is Jessa. This is Jessa. Now John wants to communicate with the Jessa, but the problem is this: John only speak English and John only understand English. On the other side, Jessa only speak French and Jessa only understand French. So if John wants to communicate with Jessa, the communication is not possible between them because they are not going to understand the language of each other. So for a proper communication between the John and Jessa, they will be needing a translator. So let's consider there is a translator between John and Jessa, and this translator is taking the input from John and it is converting the English phrases in English. John is providing the instructions in the English language, and the translator is converting that words into the French language, so that Jessa can easily understand that. In the similar way, Jessa is providing the instructions in the French language, and the translator is converting those instructions in the English language. Jessa is providing the instruction in the French language, and the translator is converting those instructions in the English language so that the John can understand. The translator. So here the translator is working as an interpreter. If I talk about the Python programming or any other programming, so it is working as an interpreter. It is converting the thing. So interpreter is also doing the same thing. What the interpreter is doing? Interpreter comes in programming language. So we are having a this machine. We are having a Python script. This is our Python script. Python script means Python file inside which we have written the Python code. So Python code will be in the form of English and the mathematical format. So we will be writing the code in the English format. We are going to type the English words inside the Python script, and we are going to use the mathematical operators like the plus, minus, multiplication, subtraction, division. So these are the multiplication, these are the mathematical signs, and then we are using the English words to write the Python code. That's the reason we are calling this as a high level language. So the meaning of the high level language is that we are writing the code in English and the mathematical form. That's the reason we are calling this as a high level. So the interpreter, the work of the interpreter is to convert the high level code that is written in English and the mathematical form into the machine code. But on the other side, we are having a machine. This is our laptop. But machine will not be able to understand the English and the mathematical language. Machine is not able to understand what is written inside the Python script. Machine only understand the mathematical language, that is a binary language, that is 1 and 0. Machine only understand the instructions in the 1 and 0 form. But the Python script is written in a high level form. High level means English and the mathematical form. So we need a translator between them, and that translator is called as an interpreter. And this interpreter is going to take the instructions, that is we are basically passing the Python script that is written in a high level format, that is in English and the math. We are going to provide this script to the interpreter. This interpreter is going to take that script, and it is going to take the script line by line. Line by line means we are having the multiple lines inside a Python program. So first the interpreter is going to take the first line. It is going to take the first line. It is going to convert that first line into the machine code. It is going to check for the errors, and after checking for the errors, it is going to basically convert that particular line into the machine code so that our machine can easily understand that. Then it is going to take the second instruction that is written in the second line. Then it is going to understand that instruction, and then it is going to convert that instruction into the machine code. So it is taking the instruction line by line. First line, second line, third line, fourth line. The work of the interpreter is to take the line by line code and to convert, basically to understand that code, and after understanding that code, it is going to convert that code into the machine format so that our machine can easily understand the high level code which we are writing inside the Python script. And using the interpreter, we are converting that high level script into the machine code so that our machine can easily understand that. And interpreter is taking the line by line code. Instead of taking the whole program in a single go, interpreter is taking the line by line code. But in some other programming languages like C, C++, these are the compiler based language. So the question may be asked, what is the difference between the compiler and the interpreter? So the interpreter always take the line by line execution, that is the first line, second line, third line, fourth line, and it is going to convert the line by line code into the machine code. But on the other side, if I talk about the compiler is not going to take the line by line code. Compiler is going to take the whole script. Let's consider this script. This is the C++ script. This is the code written in C++, which are having the multiple line. So C++ always use the compiler instead of the interpreter. C++ is a compiler based language. So it is going to provide the language. Compiler is also the translator, which we have discussed, like with this example, so that you can relate with the interpreter and the compiler. So it is going to provide the code to the compiler, and compiler is going to convert that code into the machine code so that our machine can understand that, because machine only understand the concept of the 1 and zeros. But the compiler always take the whole script. It is not going to take the line by line execution. It is going to take the whole script, and it is going to convert the whole script into the machine code in a single go. But in case of interpreter is going to take the line by line execution, and it is converting the line by line code into the machine code. First, it is going to take the first line, it is going to convert that line into the machine code. Then it is going to take the second line, it is going to convert that line into the machine code. But compiler takes the whole script, it is going to convert the whole script into the machine code so that our machine can understand the code written in the high level form. So this is the difference between interpreted and the compiled language. So Python is an interpreted language, but C++ is a compile based language. And the meaning of the high level is that the code is written in the English and the mathematical form. I hope two things are clear now, like what is interpreter and what is compiler and what is high level language. So this definition is saying the same thing, that Python is interpreted object oriented and a high level. Object oriented means that we can also write the code in the form of class and object. We can write the code in the form of class and object. We will be discussing this particular concept in very much depth in the module, in the different module that is related to the object oriented programming language. But for now, you can simply understand that we can write the code in the form of classes and the objects. That's the reason we are calling that Python programming language is an object-oriented programming language. Then the second point says Python was created by the Udo van Rossum in the late 80s and the early 90s. So Udo van Rossum was the founder of the Python programming language. Then one of the most scripting and the programming language. Scripting means we can write the script. Script means let's consider I want to do the automation of the machines. I am having the let's consider I am having some routing devices. I am having some networking devices like the router, switches. But I want to do the automation. I want to automate these machines. Like I want to do the provide the IP addresses. I want to do the manual configuration. I want to do the multiple configuration on these routers and the switches. So I will write the script in Python programming language, and using those scripts are nothing. Scripts are basically the files inside which we are writing the Python code. That is the file with the .py extension. It is the Python file. A Python file is called as a script. You can understand in this way. So whatever we are writing inside this particular file, that is called as a Python script, and using those Python script we are doing the task on these machines, that is the router and the switches. We are not limited to the router switches, we can do the multiple tasks. This is simply the example that we can do the automations by writing the Python script, and using those Python script we can do the multiple things, like we can do the automation of the networking devices. We can like we can do the web scraping. We can do the multiple tasks after writing the Python script. Then it uses interpreter. We already have discussed what is interpreter. It is fast and powerful language. So this is the basic introduction about the Python programming language. So Python is basically the high level language we have discussed. Then we have discussed that it is an interpreted language. We discussed the difference between the interpreter and the compiler. And it is the most popular programming and the scripting language. Then in second part, the second question says that why Python? Why we are using the Python? So basically, we have the multiple reasons of choosing the Python over the other programming language. So first, it is an object-oriented programming language. Object-oriented, we already have discussed that we are using the concept of the class and the objects. And using the class and object, we can basically achieve the security. We can enhance the security of the code. We can reduce the complexity of the code. So this is the purpose of using the object-oriented programming language. So using the concept of the object-oriented programming language, we can secure our code. We can reduce the complexity. Complexity can be reduced. Okay. So we can do the multiple tasks using the object-oriented programming language, and security is the major thing. Then it is a dynamically typed. So the meaning of the dynamically typed is, let's understand this in a more clear way. So when I'm saying it is a dynamically typed means, let's consider we are having a C++ programming language. On the other side, we are having a Python programming language. I am saying that Python programming language is a dynamically typed, and C++ programming language is not a dynamically typed. The meaning of the dynamically typed is, that means in C++ programming language, if I want to declare any variable, let's consider I want to declare a variable with a this one. I want to store a number, like inside A, I want to store a number 1. So I first need to define the data type of this variable. I need to define like it is of integer type, or it is of float type. It is of float type, or it can be of string type. The string name Python. So we are going to define the type of the data we are storing inside the variable. That's the reason it is not a dynamically typed. But in case of Python programming language, there is no need to define the data type, these things. The Python is automatically going to detect the data type of the variable. Let's consider there is a variable, I can directly assign a value 1. There is a B variable, I can directly assign a floating point value like 2.22. So it is a float, so there must be a 2 pointing numbers like the 2.22. Then I'm having a variable C which is storing a string. So the Python is automatically going to detect what kind of data we have stored. But in case of C++ or any other programming language is not that much capable that they can detect the data type of the variable we have stored. So we have to manually define the data type. But in case of Python, and we also have some other language as well, which are dynamically typed. In case of Python, there is no need to define the data type. There is no need to define what kind of data we are storing inside the variable. We are simply going to create the variable, and after that we are simply going to store the value. Python is automatically going to detect what kind of data we have stored inside that particular variable. But in C++, we need to manually define the data type of that particular variable. So that's the reason we are calling Python as a dynamically typed programming language. And it provides the multiple frameworks. The meaning of the frameworks is, let's consider we are having the multiple frameworks in Python programming language like the Django and Flask. If I want to do the website development, I can use the Django framework or the Flask framework for the website development. Okay. So basically, the Python is providing you the multiple frameworks, and using those frameworks, you can do the multiple tasks. You can do the machine learning. You can do the website creation. You can do the automation of the networking devices. So using the frameworks provided by the Python programming language, or frameworks as well as the modules. So the Python is providing you the multiple frameworks as well as the multiple modules. And using those modules and frameworks, you can simply do the multiple tasks. If you want to create website, you are going to use the Django framework. If you want to do the network automation, you are going to use the NetMiko module. So in NetMiko is a module provided by the Python programming language. Using this NetMiko module or Paramiko module, so these are the module provided by the Python Paramiko. So using these modules, you can do the networking automation, like the devices, do the automation of the networking devices like the routers, like the switches. So based on our requirement, we are going to choose which module we need, and using those module, you can do the multiple tasks. Then we can create the database APIs. We can create the APIs. API means, uh, let's understand the concept of API as well. So when two applications wants to communicate with each other, they need a interface between them that is called as API. API means, let's consider we are having a Zomato application over here. It is a Zomato application, that is a food delivery application. On the other side, there is a application called as Google Map. Google Map. Now Zomato needs the functionality of the Google Map inside the Zomato application. So how they are going to interact? This is the application one. This is the application two. This is the application two. The Google Map database are storing the multiple information, like the information about the map, information about the users, information about the passwords, and some other informations as well. If the Google Map directly provide the access of those database to the Zomato, so Zomato can get the access to the user database, passwords, as well as the map details. So, but Zomato is only interested in the details related to the map functionality. So what the Google Map is going to do? Google Map is going to provide the API. Google Map is going to provide the API which is only storing the data related to the map. Google Map will say, okay, you are interested in the data which is related to the map functionality. So I am sharing an API with you, and using that API, you can only access the data stored inside the map database. Okay, so the Zomato is going to request the data from this API. This API is going to forward that request to this particular database. Then this database is going to check whether the provided request is valid or not. It is going to provide the response, and then the API is going to forward that response. So this is enhancing the security. If we will not be using the API, we are simply directly going to provide the access of the Google Map database to the Zomato. So it is reducing the security of the Google Map database, because Google Map database is storing the multiple other informations as well. Like map is stored, user database is stored, password database is stored. So there are the multiple other informations as well. So we cannot directly provide the access of the Google database to the Zomato application. So we found the solution, that is the API that will only be storing the data related to the map only. So it is enhancing the security, and we can create those API using the Python programming. So it is saying the same thing, that we can create the database API, we can use for the graphical user interface, we can create the GUI programmings. So this is the reason which we are using the Python programming language. It is portable. Like portable means if we have written the code in Windows, we can use that code into the Mac environment as well as the Linux environment and the other environments as well. It has automatic memory management. This is the important point. Automatic memory management means, let's consider we have the two programming language. Let's understand this using C++ and Python. So in C++, I created a variable that is of the int type, and I stored a value like 5. I stored the value 5. Now I want to delete. So basically, what will happen? It is going to basically provide. Basically, it is going to store the. It is going to create a variable in the memory which will be storing the 5 value. If I will delete the a, if I will delete the a, so it is going to delete the a. It is going to reduce this. It is going to remove this value, but it is not going to. Basically, the space will always be reserved. This space will always be reserved, but the value is deleted. But in case of Python programming language, if I have created a variable, let's consider a was created, which was storing the value 5. Now I have deleted a. So first it is going to delete the a. Basically, it is going to reassign the value. It is simply going to like this one. So it is going to assign the value 5 to the a variable. When I executed this particular line, so this link was removed. That means a is now not storing the value 5. And after deleting, the memory will always be empty. Once I have deleted the variable, the memory will also be aged. But in case of C++, the memory will still be taking the spaces. That's the reason we are calling it has automatic memory management. So this is an important topic, important point which the Python programming language is providing to us. Let's move to the next slide. Now, scope of Python. Scope of Python means where we can use a Python programming language. So we can do the multiple tasks using the Python programming language. We can using science we can use the bioinformatics. We can do the multiple things like the AI/ML, machine learning, artificial intelligence, then the system administration. Like we are having the web logics, we can create the web spheres, we can do the Unix. So we are having the multiple things which we can use, which we can do using the Python programming language. In web development, we are having the multiple frameworks like the Django. Django is based on the Python programming language. Django, Flask. So we are having the multiple frameworks which are based on the Python programming, and using that programming we can do the website development. Then we can write the testing scripts for the testing purpose. We can create the games. We can do the multiple things in the field of the educations. So there is a multiple scope of the Python programming language, and based on our requirement, we are going to use the frameworks and the modules provided by the Python. If I am interested in creating the website, then I'm going to use the Django framework or the Flask framework. If I'm interested in doing the network automation, I will be using the NetMiko, Paramiko, these modules which are provided by the Python programming language. If I'm interested in doing the I want to do the real world tasks like the OpenCV. So we have the multiple frameworks and the modules provided by the Python programming language, and using those frameworks and modules, we can do the multiple tasks. We can create the website, we can create the games, we can do the networking. So we can do the multiple tasks. Move to the next slide. So now what we can do with the Python? So we can create the system programming, we can create the graphical user interface, we can do the internet programming like the cloud-based services like the AWS and the other things. So we can do the internet programming, component programming, we can create the databases, we can create the gaming application, we can deal with the images, XML and the robots. So we can do the multiple things using the Python programming language that we have already discussed. Python is a very, like you can say, very widely used programming language in nowadays. Who uses Python? So there are the multiple companies which are using the Python programming language. That is Google, Yahoo. So every company nowadays is using a Python programming language based on their requirement in the different field. Like if someone is dealing with the networking devices, like the Cisco. So Cisco is a networking company. Like the Cisco, they are having the multiple networking devices. So they are using the Python programming language to deal with their networking devices, to write the script of their networking devices. Along with that, we have the multiple other companies as well, like Netflix and the other. Everyone is using the Python programming language nowadays.